my dear friends, and welcome back to another Star Wars news update. So once again we find ourselves just hours away from the next chapter of the Book of Boba Fett, Chapter 5, which is believed to be Bryce Dallas Howard's episode. We've made it to the big final 3 episodes, and all signs and teases have pointed to this week's episode being the start of a crazy end to Season 1. So far the show has received mixed feedback, some of which I think is overly critical, and while I'm someone who's been generally very praising towards the series, even I'll admit it is time for things to pick up a bit. We have more Boba behind us than ahead of us, and luckily Ming-Na and Temuera Morrison have told us that after episodes 5, 6 and 7, we'll look back at the series in a very different light. And this is true of everyone who's worked on the show who's given recent interviews. They are all adamant that the final 3 are going to convert fans who've been very critical up until this point. So what do we know going into Chapter 5? Well, the main thing is that Boba and Fennec are looking to recruit muscle to help them fight the Pykes and whoever they're working with. And based on that massive musical tease at the end of Chapter 4, we know that Boba is going to try and recruit Mando and maybe some other familiar Mandalorians as well, like Bo-Katan and the Night Owls. But today, my dear friends, we do actually have a massive tease for what's coming tomorrow. The editor-in-chief of Reviewed Cinema, who is also a writer at the Illuminati, has teased that this week, the Book of Boba Fett is going to hit hard. In more than one way, and in ways fans won't expect. A very vague tweet that can be interpreted in many ways. But it's clearly hinting that something emotional is going to happen. Now, since we know nothing of the plot, aside from the possible cameo, it's impossible to know what this writer is hinting at. And if the series has taught us anything, it's to expect the unexpected. Having said that, Bespin Bulletin recently scooped the new ship Mando's going to have, and so maybe seeing him is going to remind us of the tragic explosion of the Razor Crest. We simply don't know, but the takeaway is to get ready to be moved. Now, as we do every single week, we're going to take a look at the most recent character poster. This week, my dear friends, we have the mod that closed up Fennec Shand. Definitely a big piece of world building from Chapter 4, and while this character was not the most important in the series, he did save Fennec's life. Everything, of course, for a price. He's kind of like a tattoo artist from the Star Wars world, but instead of tattoos, it's modifications. And remember, appointments only. So going back to a bit of speculation for Chapter 5, a big question that Chapter 4 left us with is whether Fennec and Boba are going to leave Tatooine. I think the answer is a resounding yes, absolutely. They've got to go out of their own way to find Din and anyone else they hope to recruit. My bet is that they're going to make a stop on Nevarro or Mandalore, and in either case, seeing Din Djarin in this next episode is also a great way to set the precedent for the Mandalorian Season 3 and show us what Mando has been up to. Now that he's got the Darksaber, although a reluctant wielder of it, will other Mandos gather behind him to come to Boba's assistance, or will there be conflict amongst the clans? And does Mando have bigger fish to fry, larger stakes on his hands, which means he might be unable to help? All very important questions to ponder about before Chapter 5. Now, if the stakes are supposedly going to be raised in Chapters 5 to 7, we must also wonder who else could be brought into the show to help the plot. I've been thinking about what Fennec said at the end of last week's episode, that you can buy muscle if you know where to look. And while Din Djarin was who was heavily teased, I think it's inevitable we'll also see some other big players as well. We've spoken about other big bounty hunters such as Bossk, but something which is a long shot that I hope the show takes the opportunity to connect at some stage is muscle that Fennec already knows about, notably the Bad Batch and Omega. Now, given we're 30 years after the events of the Clone Wars, most members of the Batch are probably dead, but this is Star Wars and you just never know. At the very least, I assume Omega is still alive because she did not have accelerated aging and would be roughly the same age as Boba Fett. And surely, Fennec Shand, who's known both of them, has put 2 and 2 together that Omega and Boba are both unaltered Jango Fett clones. Fennec knows Boba's backstory, something subtly revealed when she nods when he talks about growing up around water on Kamino, and of course she took the job from Nala Se to track down Omega in the Bad Batch all those years ago. Remarkably, I'm surprised Fennec hasn't mentioned Omega yet, and we assume that Boba Fett doesn't know about her yet because she was kept a secret on Kamino. But I think it's coming, either in a future episode of this season, maybe to tease Season 2, or in a future season of this show. Aside from Omega, if any of the other members of Clone Force 99 are still alive and active, then you can't really get better muscle than them. Granted, someone like Wrecker would be long retired, but they still have the tactical side and the brains of Tech, Hunter, and Echo. Echo. Of course, if they are still around, then we don't know where they ended up at this point in the timeline. They could be with Captain Rex, but I think it's just a matter of time until they show us. Alternatively, if we do get Omega in a future Book of Boba Fett episode, then maybe she'll tell us what happened to the rest of the batch. However it happens, I do hope at some stage they incorporate a clone connection in this series. That would be a fan dream come true and a nice way to connect Boba's past to his future. Now Fennec and Boba have a lot on their hands, and whether we learn more about the Pykes and who's behind them this week or not, something I think we're going to see very soon are bounty hunters that they send to kill Boba. Boba is well equipped with Black Chrysanthemum, Fennec Shand, hopefully Mando and others, but I don't think the Pyke Syndicate is going to mess around. For all we know, they've got muscle as well, and that's why they're being so daring trying to gain a foothold on Tatooine. They might have someone as known as Cad Bane, who is someone long rumoured to be in this show, who I do think is going to appear, but in Chapter 6. The episode directed and co-written by Dave Filoni himself. But Boba and Fennec have to be ready and prepared, and hopefully the army they recruit, an army of allies, is going to be ready. And we also have to remember that Boba Fett has a personal stake in this, his personal attachment to Tatooine, not only from the standpoint of being daimyo, but also what he learned with the Tuskens, who gave him a sense of belonging and taught him everything they know before being destroyed by a mysterious party who framed the Nikto gang. He has a deep connection to the Dune Sea and its nature, which is why we're seeing a lot of fans speculate that maybe the series ends with him giving the land back to the various Tusken tribes, restoring Tatooine to its original proprietors. The Pykes taking over the planet is a deeply personal matter to Boba, which is why he's willing to go to great lengths, risking his own person and Fennec to defend the planet that most people see as a worthless rock. And speaking of Tuskens, I think there is more storyline to be told about the destruction of the camp. Not only who really killed them, but if the female Tusken survived. We never saw her body, and the rule of Star Wars is, if you don't see a body, their death is not confirmed. I'm sure she's going to reappear at some stage. That could be sort of a big plot twist, and I'd be more than happy to see more of her in this series. She was absolutely excellent in the first few episodes, and I'd be delighted to find out if she did indeed survive. Now I realise I've just gone on a bit of a tangent, but it's really awesome to speculate all the directions this show could go. But one thing I think is for certain is there is going to be a big Mandalorian connection in this episode. Everything else, we'll just have to wait and see, but I do hope they make some big connections at some stage, even if it's not necessarily in this first season. I hope you guys are excited for Chapter 5. I'm super hyped. These last 3 episodes we'd expect to be the best ones in the series, and hopefully they're bangers. We'll find out in just a matter of hours, and as always, my dear friends, I will be doing my full episode breakdown, so look out for that. I will be sharing all of my thoughts and going through everything we just witnessed. I also want to thank you all for the well wishes recently. I've been very sick. Luckily, I am getting better. I am getting my stamina back. I'm able to speak a lot more clearly than I have been in the past week. And after a bit of a rushed breakdown last week because I really was not feeling well, tomorrow, I promise you, I will give you my absolute fullest. So until then, my dear friends, let me know your thoughts of everything we spoke about in the comments down below. Please be sure to give me a big fat thumbs up if you enjoyed this video. Please be sure to hit that big red subscribe button if you're brand new, and a huge welcome if you are. And also, why not check out all of the content I also have on Patreon? The link is down there in the description. There are over 100 videos that are not found here on YouTube. May the force be with you all, or should I say, this is the way. I'm Star Wars Meg. Have an amazing day, and I'll see you next time.